Welcome to Wine and Glide, everybody. Glide is a startup that many of us work at, and we just want to go through some demos of stuff that we're working on in Glide. Today, Glide can turn a spreadsheet into an app, but our broader ambition at Glide is to create 1 billion new software developers. So most companies have a spreadsheet that looks like this. So inside of Glide, you click New App, and you're just presented with the sheets in your Google Drive. So I'm just going to pick the sheet Employees March 11. And Glide downloads the data and produces what we call the default app. And there's a very simple design language here. And Glide, just to start, allocates all these components and connects them to your data. And the data is syncing live. So if Fo changes his name to Ford, and that gets updated in the spreadsheet. But you can see that just gets threaded back through the application and it shows up. Syncing back and forth, easy to create an app, very easy to design. And now we'll move on to Jason Smith.
I was going to demo a little bit about a thing we just open sourced. So in Glide, we have a couple different areas where we need to view large amounts of data. We can open a table and we can see that this table has 67,000 entries in it. And you can't tell over Zoom, but this scrolls as fast as I can move the mouse. There is no latency or lag whatsoever. Previously, when we had the data editor, it chugged heavily if you tried to scroll something this large. So what we ended up doing was we built our own, and we actually just launched and open source this. And this is where it is. You can find it at grid.glideapps.com. If you ever need a data grid in your app, please feel free to try it out. And if you have issues, let me know, and I will help you integrate it.
Next Glide project, Glide Radio, Seth.
If you're working on any complex product, you have a lot of data that's running through it, and there are a lot of products that can visualize that data. We wanted to see what it sounded like. Are there insights we could get from just hearing what's going on, especially at a higher level? Like, is your server on fire or is everything okay? So this is Glide Radio running at radio.glideapps.com. And when I start this up, you will hear Glide's live backend sonified. So there's a bunch of stuff going on, but basically we're mapping data that's coming from the server to sound modules to produce different types of sounds. You can go to radio.glideapps.com and there's a GitHub link, and it's all open source, and clone it and have fun.
Before we do another Glide demo, let's have a community demo. I don't know what we call it, but Linus, do you think you can do your programming language?
Yeah, so pivoting back from something Glide related and non-technical to something non-Glide related and perhaps a little more technical. This is the website for the language. Here's like a little demo. But the fun thing about this is, so I made this language 2 years ago. Outside of work, I write TypeScript mostly, but outside of work, Ink is probably the language that I write the most. At first, it was just sort of the back end, and then I wrote this thing at some point called September, which is a compiler, and it compiles Ink code to JavaScript. With that, I've made a bunch of projects in it, and so I'll just kind of do like a best of. This is probably the one that people ask the most about. It's Lucerne, which is a Twitter client. There's like ray tracers that I've done, other kinds of interpreters. There's a little like data visualization thing I had. This one's in the browser. It's a bunch of different programs that sort of generate, like procedurally generate random images that are sort of like aesthetically pleasing. The last thing that I'll talk about, which is the most recent thing that I made with Ink, is Eliza, which is a chatbot. And this is the first thing that I made where everything is written in Ink. Maybe this is not super interesting, but I think it's super cool that you can just like, there's this tower of tools that I've now made on top of this like baseline interpreter. Because I was thinking about this like tower of tools, I think last week, I used this little tool to basically draw this dependency graph. I don't know if you can see this at all, but it's a dependency graph of all of my projects. It's just when you start sort of building from the ground up, all the tools yourself and really understanding everything that's going into all the things that you're building. I think there's a lot of, it's kind of addicting. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of joy in just like building the base material and then building everything on top of it and building up to like a tower.
Does anyone have anything they would spontaneously like to share before we have one final Glide show and tell?
iCircuit 3D real quick. So I had this idea one day that circuit simulators are fun, but they don't represent reality very well. So we have a symbolic abstraction that we generally use. And it's useful. It's totally useful for teaching circuits, but I wanted to go a little bit crazy and build an app that uses the physical, not analogy. To that end, I built a little app that has 1 million 3D objects in it, and the whole point of the app is to be messy. So you have DC supplies, you have batteries that you can throw in, you have resistors, you just throw them in, because in reality, things are messy, like in the back of my desk. So like, here's a little panel I built, and it is like a physical item. So you can build structural elements within it also. But then you flick the switch and the LED actually comes on, complete with reflections. I really want to point this out. Like, this is high-res reflections happening here. So I'm not messing around.
Wait, why is that moving?
That's current moving through the wire. That's what
of course.
Gold symbols are.
Super
Right.
realistic.
Yeah.
Physically correct.
Yeah. I mean, I get a little bit silly. Like, if you detach, let me get the camera angle right. There's actually an entire building in the background here, you can see.
So yeah, I just want to thank everyone for coming today. I want to let you know that we are hiring. We're looking for more engineers to help us build Glide. So if you or anybody you know is interested in working on projects like this, we would love to talk to you about that. So thanks, everybody.